So in my opinion, when it comes to drumming, the most difficult thing to get better at is absolutely bass drum speed. So today I'm going to try to offer up 3 different beats you can use to hopefully get yourself better at using the bass drum. I tried to pick 3 beats that all sounded really good, as well as being good practice exercises, because to be honest, no one really likes just doing drum exercises over and over again that don't sound good. There's a saying that a beat will sound like an exercise if it's too basic. So I think all of these can be used in some capacity in actual songs, and they all sound pretty good. Now this first beat is actually considered a drum exercise, but I do think it sounds really good. The pattern is going to be 4 sets of 16th note double strokes followed by 1 8th note double stroke. The kick pattern alone without the snare sounds like this. This is not only a kick drum speed exercise, but if you're in one of the beginner stages of drumming, this is also kind of a coordination exercise. So it might take a little bit to get this pattern working with an actual, beat with your hands. First, I'll play it at like a mind-numbingly slow rate, and then I'll try to do it as fast as I can without messing up. That's another important thing with these kinds of exercises. You're going to want to try to push the exercises right up to the point where you feel really uncomfortable doing them, but where you can still play it cleanly. If you do this every day, gradually that tempo is going to increase until you find yourself at a place where you're pretty comfortable with your kick drum speed. And if you want to get better at double bass, I would also try all of these exercises with your left leg or your right leg if you're weird. For most people, it would be your left leg. The second beat we're going to be going over today is going to be the beat from Nobody by Avenged Sevenfold. I actually have 2 Avenged Sevenfold beats on here just because I think both Brooks and the Rev were really good on their feet. I think they offer good examples on how to get better at kick drum speed. If you haven't heard the song, it is pretty new. It basically consists of 30-second notes on a closed hi-hat, the snare on 2 and 4, and then the bass drum is going to be on 1, 3, and the E of 3. So let's check out the full beat. I'm going to start this beat off by just playing the bass and the snare, because to be honest, that's all we're really here for. But if you want to add the hi-hats, I do think it adds a whole new level of complexity, and it's going to be really, useful. So now that you've got the bass and the snare down, here's what it's going to sound like with all 3 drums, or both drums and the cymbal. This one's going to be played very slow so you can get the idea of it. Now what you'll notice is that the last 2 kick drums that lead into the snare are played on the last 2 hits of the hi-hat. So this can be a good way to memorize when to do them and make sure you're staying in time while you're doing them. So anyway, here's the beat at full speed once again, now that you know it. This one's pretty hard to get. It actually took me a couple takes to get it like decent where I wanted to put it in the video. I find the 30-second note hi-hat pattern, it's like sometimes you can fall out of time with it if you don't do it exactly right. This last beat is going to be a regular gallop beat. You'll often hear this with a double bass pedal because it's way easier, but it also functions as a really good exercise of both coordination and speed if you try doing it with just 1 pedal. This is because between every single snare hit, you're going to be forced to switch between single and double kicks. That was the pattern at a very slow tempo, but similar to every other pattern I've shown on here, you're going to want to bring this to a tempo where you're just about uncomfortable with it and then gradually increase it. So here it is at a tempo where I start to get pretty uncomfortable with it. This last beat is a bit of a bonus that I figured I would add on. It's another Avenged Sevenfold beat, and it just occurred to me that I do this one a lot on my own, and for some reason I didn't think to put it in the video. This last beat is going to be that dance beat from Backcountry. The only catch is you're going to be playing with just one pedal, which makes it exponentially harder. It's a 2-measured beat, and the dance beat is actually pretty easy. It's more so in the second half of the beat that it gets difficult to play at full tempo with just one pedal. So here's what the dance beat alone sounds like. And here's what the second half sounds like. It's basically filling up the entire bar with 16th notes on the bass pedal. To make this easier with one pedal, you can just ignore hitting the bass drum whenever you hit the snare, because it honestly doesn't make too huge of a difference, and it's going to make it a million times easier. You probably are going to struggle playing this at goal tempo, even doing that. But once you do get to that point, you can try doing full 16th notes on the bass pedal after that. But until then, I would say just ignore the bass when you hit the snare. You might not be able to hit the goal tempo for this one at first. It's 125 beats per minute. So if it's too hard, I drop it maybe 10, 20, 30 beats per minute to wherever you feel comfortable, and then just gradually work up to it. This is really going to kill whatever leg you're working on, so I think this is probably the best exercise I have on here. Now, the method I would use for practicing these, because, practicing them alone just for the sake of it is not going to help you that much, is I would keep track of how fast I'm able to play each beat every day. And then, on the day after, just increase the tempo by like 1 or 2 beats per minute, and then get yourself comfortable playing at that tempo that day, and just go baby steps. Because, after a month, you're up 30 beats per minute if you keep up with this. So it's pretty slow, but when it comes to developing bass drum speed, you just want progress, because it can be really difficult, and if you don't have any kind of regimen like this, then it's never going to happen. Well, it'll happen, just not as quickly as it could.